He kept pieces of her and called them memories. The box is pulled from the back of the closet. Dust rises. Inside sealed plastic bags. A lock of hair. A cracked phone case. A silver necklace stained dark. The detective freezes. These aren't souvenirs from travel. They're trophies. And they all belong to Elizabeth Jacob. The man standing calmly in the next room? Stanley Flowers. He says one sentence that makes the air go cold. I kept them so she wouldn't leave me twice. But what happened next shocked everyone. Elizabeth Jacob was 28. Quietly ambitious. The kind of woman who smiled with her eyes but guarded her heart. She lived in a modest Midwestern town where nights were quiet and routines felt safe. Worked weekdays. Volunteered weekends. Known as dependable. Predictable. Kind. Stanley Flowers lived 3 streets away. Mid-30s. Soft-spoken. Helpful neighbor. Never raised his voice. People trusted him. They waved. They borrowed tools. They never locked their doors tighter when he was around. That town believed monsters looked like monsters. They were wrong. We post cases like this daily. Subscribe so you never miss one. Because this story isn't just about murder. It's about what killers take and why they never let it go. Elizabeth Jacob lived a life most people would describe as ordinary. That was the illusion. She woke early, left her apartment at the same time every morning, parked in the same spot, jogged the same loop just before dusk. Routine felt safe, predictable, controlled. Elizabeth liked control. She'd learned it the hard way after failed relationships, after learning that attention didn't always mean care. She kept her circle small, trusted slowly, smiled politely. Stanley Flowers noticed all of that. He noticed before anyone else did. He lived close enough to observe patterns without trying too hard. From his window he could see the parking lot. From his evening walks he could time her jogs. At first it felt harmless, coincidental. Then it felt necessary. Stanley told himself he wasn't watching her. He was watching life. But his eyes always followed Elizabeth. When she skipped a jog one evening, it unsettled him. When she laughed with someone new near her car, it lingered in his chest like pressure. They spoke only twice. Once about the weather. Once about a faulty streetlight. Elizabeth forgot both conversations almost immediately. Stanley replayed them endlessly. He remembered the tone of her voice, the way she shifted her weight, the pause before she smiled. Inside his apartment, Stanley kept no photographs of her. Not yet. What he kept were details. Mental snapshots. Moments he refined until they felt personal. He imagined himself as someone important to her. Someone seen. When Elizabeth declined his casual dinner suggestion, she did it gently, kindly. But kindness can feel cruel to someone who has already written the ending. Stanley didn't hear no. He heard loss. And loss terrified him. In the days that followed, Elizabeth felt something change. She couldn't explain it. No messages. No threats. Just a sensation being observed. She walked faster at night. Checked her mirrors. Stanley adjusted. He learned when to look away. When to blend in. When to be invisible. To him, restraint felt like proof of care. The night before Elizabeth disappeared, Stanley watched her from across the lot. She stood beside her car, phone pressed to her ear, laughing softly. Something inside him snapped, not loudly, quietly. Because in that moment he decided something. If he couldn't be part of her future, he would make sure she never truly left his present. And the first thing he would take was a piece of her life. The night Elizabeth Jacob vanished felt ordinary to everyone else. The air was cool. Streetlights buzzed softly. Cars passed without slowing. Elizabeth left work later than usual. A long day. Too many emails. She walked toward her car with her phone in hand, distracted, already thinking about getting home. She never heard footsteps behind her. Stanley Flowers stepped into view as she reached for her door. Not sudden. Not aggressive. Familiar. He spoke her name the way someone does when they expect to be welcomed. Elizabeth stiffened. Surprise first. Then caution. He said he just wanted to talk. Just a minute. Witnesses later described seeing 2 figures near the parking lot. No struggle. No shouting. Just movement in low light. Elizabeth didn't scream because nothing felt violent yet. Investigators believe Stanley guided her toward his car under the pretense of privacy. A conversation. Closure. He positioned himself carefully, blocking escape without touching her. When Elizabeth realized something was wrong, it was already too late. The blow came fast. Clumsy. Fueled by panic. Rain began shortly after, washing sound and evidence into the asphalt. Elizabeth's phone fell from her hand during the struggle. It skidded beneath a parked car. The case cracked on impact. Stanley noticed. He picked it up. That mattered more than he realized at the time. Hours later, Elizabeth was gone. Her car still parked. Her keys missing. By morning, concern spread. Co-workers called. Family texted. Messages went unanswered. Stanley woke as if nothing had happened. He showered, changed clothes, went through his routine. But he didn't throw anything away. He kept the phone case, her necklace, a strand of hair caught on his sleeve. He wrapped them carefully, stored them away. Police launched a missing person search within 48 hours. Flyers appeared on poles. Volunteers canvassed streets. Stanley joined them. He held Elizabeth's photo, studied it openly now. No need to hide. He spoke softly to officers, offered timelines, mentioned seeing her leave work, gave just enough information to seem helpful. But then, search teams found her phone without its case, and detectives realized something was wrong, because killers in a panic abandon evidence. This one collected it, and that meant Elizabeth wasn't just missing, she was being kept, in pieces. The investigation shifted the moment detectives stopped asking where Elizabeth Jacob was, and started asking who needed her to stay gone. At first, the town looked inward. Ex-boyfriends, co-workers, neighbors with criminal records. Nothing fit. Elizabeth's life was orderly. No debts, no secret relationships, no signs of running away. But then investigators noticed something subtle. Her disappearance followed precision. No random chaos, no scattered trail. That suggested planning. Detectives mapped her final day minute by minute. Security footage showed Elizabeth leaving work. Cameras captured her car still parked hours later. No footage showed her driving away. But then, a camera at a nearby intersection recorded Stanley Flowers' vehicle passing twice within a short window, once before Elizabeth disappeared, once after. When questioned, Stanley explained it away. Wrong turn. Late night drive. Harmless. But then, cell phone data placed Elizabeth's phone near Stanley's route moments before it went dark. Still circumstantial. Still deniable. Investigators requested consent to search Stanley's car. He agreed. Inside they found nothing obvious. Clean. Recently detailed. But then, forensic techs detected fibers embedded deep in the upholstery. Not visible to the eye. Matched to Elizabeth's clothing. Stanley was brought in again. This time detectives changed tactics. They didn't accuse. They asked about Elizabeth. Stanley talked. Too much. He described her habits, her moods, her jewelry, details he shouldn't know. But then, a search warrant was issued for his apartment. The box was found in the closet, labeled neatly. No fingerprints but his. Inside were items belonging to Elizabeth, personal, intimate, irreplaceable. The room went silent. When confronted, Stanley didn't break immediately. He explained. He said he found the items later. Said he wanted to remember her. Said it helped him cope. But then, detectives opened a notebook. Dates, times, descriptions. Each entry documented how holding the items made him feel calm and close. This wasn't grief. It was ritual. Psychologists were consulted. The profile came back clear. Trophy behavior indicates emotional ownership. Control extended beyond the crime. Stanley wasn't reliving the murder. He was reliving power. When confronted with GPS data, fiber evidence, and possession of personal items, Stanley's defense collapsed. But he still avoided one word: murder. Instead, he said something chilling. She didn't want to talk anymore. I just wanted her to stay. That was enough. The case went to trial. Evidence stacked high. The trophies became the centerpiece. Not the violence. Not the body. The keeping. Because killers who keep trophies don't want closure. They want permanence. And Stanley Flowers had built himself a private museum of control. The jury didn't need long. But even as the verdict approached, investigators knew one thing. If the box hadn't been found, Elizabeth Jacob would have been just another missing person. And Stanley Flowers would still be remembering. The courtroom was silent when the verdict was read. Guilty. Stanley Flowers stood motionless. No tears. No shock. As if the ending had already played out in his mind long ago. Elizabeth Jacob's family held each other. Justice had arrived, but it came hollow. Nothing would bring her back. Nothing could erase the weeks she spent as evidence instead of a daughter, a sister, a human being. During sentencing, prosecutors focused on the trophies, not as accessories to the crime, but as the crime itself continuing. They explained how Stanley didn't stop when Elizabeth's life ended. He extended the act through possession, preservation, and repetition. The judge agreed. Stanley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the case didn't end there. Psychologists later interviewed Stanley as part of a post-conviction behavioral review. What he revealed was unsettling not because it was dramatic, but because it was methodical. He admitted the moment Elizabeth rejected him was the moment the fantasy fractured. He didn't want to hurt her, he said. He wanted to freeze her, lock her into a version that couldn't leave. The trophies made that possible. He described touching the necklace before sleeping, rearranging the phone case on his nightstand, replaying imagined conversations while holding them. To Stanley, the objects weren't reminders of violence. They were proof of connection. Investigators realized something chilling. If Stanley hadn't kept the items, if he had discarded everything, the case may never have been solved. There were no witnesses, no confession, minimal forensic evidence at the scene. The trophies betrayed him. And that's why trophy keeping is so dangerous for offenders, and so revealing for investigators. In the months that followed, Elizabeth's belongings were returned to her family. Some items were too damaged to recognize. Others carried a weight no one wanted to touch. Her mother later said something that stayed with detectives. He didn't just take her life. He tried to keep her. The town changed after the trial. People locked doors sooner, looked twice at familiar faces, questioned politeness. Because Stanley Flowers wasn't loud. He wasn't violent until he was. He was quiet, observant, patient. And that's what made him terrifying. Elizabeth Jacobs' story became a warning not just about danger, but about obsession hidden behind normalcy. The truth is, most killers don't want chaos. They want control. And sometimes the most damning evidence isn't blood or DNA. It's what they refuse to let go of. Trophy keeping is not about remembrance. It is about ownership. In criminal psychology, trophies serve as emotional anchors. They allow offenders to revisit a moment where they felt powerful, significant, and in control. For individuals like Stanley Flowers, the act of killing is not the climax, it is the doorway. The real gratification comes after. Stanley's behavior reflects a pattern seen in multiple documented American cases. Offenders who feel chronically invisible often construct private fantasies where they matter deeply to someone else. When reality rejects that fantasy, it creates what psychologists call narcissistic injury, a wound to the self that feels unbearable. Violence becomes a way to repair that wound. But trophies serve a deeper function. They allow the offender to freeze time. Holding Elizabeth's belongings allowed Stanley to suspend the moment before rejection, before abandonment. The items became substitutes for intimacy. Touch replaced conversation. Possession replaced connection. This is why trophies are often personal rather than valuable. Jewelry, hair, clothing, phones, objects saturated with identity. They are not souvenirs of the crime. They are symbols of dominance. Psychologists also note that trophy keepers often revisit their items during stress, loneliness, or loss of control. The ritual calms them. It reassures them that they once mattered on their terms. In Stanley's case, the careful organization and preservation show compulsive behavior rather than impulse. This wasn't rage-driven violence. It was controlled, deliberate, and emotionally strategic. Perhaps most disturbing is this truth. Trophy keeping means the crime never ends. As long as the object exists, the offender continues the psychological violation. The victim remains trapped in the offender's internal world. And that is why trophy-keeping offenders are considered among the most dangerous. Because they don't seek closure. They seek permanence. Elizabeth Jacobs' life was taken in a moment. But Stanley Flowers tried to keep her forever. That's what makes this case so disturbing. The violence didn't end at the crime scene. It followed him home, sat in a box, waited to be touched again. Trophies aren't about memory. They're about control, about refusing to let another human being exist outside your grasp. Elizabeth became more than a victim. She became an object in someone else's fantasy. And that is a truth we don't like to face. Because Stanley Flowers didn't look dangerous. He blended in. He helped search. He spoke softly. He was ordinary. If this story unsettled you, it should. Because obsession doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it watches quietly. Sometimes it waits. What do you think drives someone to keep pieces of another person's life? Fear of being forgotten? Or the need to feel powerful one last time? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to Behind the Crime and watch our next case, where we uncover how killers hide in plain sight, until the truth finally surfaces.